Hi everyone, I hope that you're doing all right. I know it's been such a tough start to the year, so I really hope that you and your families and loved ones are well and staying safe. So lots of people have been asking me recently, what's it like campaigning in a pandemic? And it's an interesting question because basically since I got selected, we've been in ever tougher restrictions, in and out of lockdown and various tiers. So it is challenging, but I thought I'd provide a little update and do a sort of weekly campaign diary talking about what that looks like for me. So a few highlights from this week. On quite a sobering and serious note, I've been doing some more work on the cladding scandal. For anyone who doesn't know about this already, it's a situation whereby thousands of Londoners have been left in potentially unsafe homes since the Grenfell tragedy. And it's just an absolute scandal that this hasn't been sorted out already. This has been going on for years. And what makes it even worse is not only that people are trapped in potentially unsafe homes, which is particularly scary when we're in lockdown and all working from home, right? Or many of us are. But also, leaseholders are being asked to foot the bill, and this is costing them an absolute fortune. I'm hearing of people my age and younger who've bought their homes in good faith and are now potentially going bankrupt because they're having to pay for these waking watches. And it's just wrong. They shouldn't have to be paying for this. So I'm completely on their side. My colleague Caroline Pigeon, who's on the London Assembly, has been doing amazing work, speaking up for all the Londoners affected and asking questions about it. And we did have a meeting this week, Caroline and myself, with some of our parliamentarians in both the House of Commons and the House of Lords to see what more they can do to take up this case, because actually it's not just Londoners affected, it's people across the UK, and there needs to be justice for those people. The government has to pay for this, and they can recoup the costs from building owners by all means, and they should do that. But the main thing is residents should not be paying. So watch this space. We'll probably see more being asked about this in the Commons and the Lords, putting pressure on ministers to do the right thing finally. And also today, Caroline and Hina Bakari and myself, so Hina and I are both councillors. She's in Merton, I'm in Camden, discussed a meeting that we're going to be having next week with UK Finance, which represents lenders in this country, and also the social housing regulator. So to ask for both of their sectors, what are the issues from their perspective, and also ask them some questions about what each of the sectors are going to do about this. And hopefully we'll be able to make some progress. And maybe in my video next week, I can provide an update about some of the information we got from that meeting, because a lot of people really need it. I've also had meetings with the business community this week. So I met with a new West End company, which represents the West End. It is not the same at the moment, of course. Normally a thriving hub for theatre and retail and, just such a special and unique part of London. But it's a ghost town at the moment for obvious reasons. And my campaign is all about looking to London's future beyond the pandemic. What's our city going to look like? And I'm really keen that the West End retains its special status. But also, some of you may know that my flagship housing policy is about having more homes in the heart of London, again, homes in the heart of the city. And I think that central London is right for this, without taking away from all the amazing attractions that it obviously has as a visitor centre as well. So I was just talking about some of the logistics of that with them, and also what we can do to make our air cleaner and bring in more greenery into these spaces. So I think we're quite on the same page about those things, which was really encouraging. I also met with Centre for London, which is essentially a kind of policy think tank, thinking about the challenges that London faces and the sorts of things that can be done about it, which is very complementary to my campaign as well. And it's so useful having these meetings because it gives me ideas, it gives me a chance to share my ideas with people who've been doing a lot of this thinking. And why reinvent the wheel, right? There's a lot of good ideas out there that haven't been implemented yet for the capital, and I'm keen to take those all on board and see how we can really make the best of our city. I also caught up with representatives from the CBI, which represents not just big businesses, but small and medium-sized enterprises as well, and I've got some of their thoughts on what the challenges are for London, but also the opportunities for business, because I think we really do have an opportunity. Once we've seen the back of this pandemic and there is a light at the end of the tunnel with these vaccines coming through, how are we going to build the recovery? And I think there are some exciting opportunities that come out of this trend of home working, not only to fix our housing crisis by using some of those empty buildings we now see in the centre of London and elsewhere and converting them into quality, affordable, zero carbon homes, but also to reinvent our high streets across London, which would be really good for diversifying our economy across London, but also making every neighbourhood in our capital somewhere to live and somewhere to work. So how can we build on those opportunities as much as possible? Business clearly has some really urgent needs right now for hospitality and retail in particular. It's important that they get some more business rates relief for the next year, ideally. And I've been putting pressure on government to do that because we need to help them get through this next difficult phase, however long that might be, hopefully not too long. But also, what can we do long term to support the new local demand we've seen on high streets across London, because more people are working from home and more of them will continue to in future. A lot of the businesses I talk to are looking at a kind of hybrid model now. I've also done some press interviews. So I was on ITV London on Tuesday. One of the questions they asked me is whether this is a two-horse race. Well, if it is, one of them's already gone off the racetrack. So no, it's not. This is a PR election. There's more than two candidates in it, and I hope to give the mayor a good run for his money, because the Conservative candidate does not seem able to do that. I've also spoken to some local reporters as well, both in my capacity as a councillor and with my London mayoral campaign hat on. So I've been busy. I've been quoted in the local and national press a bit, partly because the Conservative candidate this week suggested that homeless families could save for a deposit. Oh, who knew? Well, that solves homelessness, doesn't it? Brilliant. Yeah, I've got to hand it to him. This isn't an idea anyone else is going to be talking about. So good on you. And also on a more serious note, this week, myself and Ed Davey, the leader of the Lib Dems, called for an inquiry into London's handling of the pandemic. So Ed has already called for a national inquiry, which Boris Johnson did theoretically commit to, and we will keep the pressure on the government to see that through, because we need to learn the lessons from this crisis and never let our country be in this situation again. But also, we need to make sure that London's resilience is built up too, because we have been particularly badly hit. We were the first to be hit badly back in March last year, and now look at the situation. Many of our hospitals in London completely overwhelmed, NHS staff on their knees. In some boroughs, 1 in 15 Londoners are estimated to have the virus. And it came out today that more than 30% of Londoners have probably had it already. And really sobering and sad is that more than 10,000 Londoners have died. So this has been nothing short of a public health disaster, and we need to make sure that it never happens again, not to mention the huge impact it's had on our economy and people's livelihoods as well. And if we want to recover properly, we need to work out how to make sure we're on a more sustainable footing in future from that point of view as well. So those are some of the things that I've been doing. Hopefully you can now see that even though I can't really be out and about meeting Londoners, there's still lots of ways to stay in touch with people. And I would welcome any thoughts that you have about that. I'm keen to be as open and accessible as possible as a candidate in this race. So let me know what you think. On a personal note, I'm actually feeling more energized this year than I was before Christmas. I think the break was good, a bit less time on Zoom. And well, we're in lockdown, aren't we? So there's not a great deal to do. I've gone for my daily walk. This evening's highlight will be going to the supermarket when it's less busy. Rock and roll, Friday night. Be keen to hear what you're all doing. So please let me know in the comments underneath. How are you doing? How are you passing the time in lockdown? If you have any recommendations for any shows or movies or books, I know I'd really welcome hearing those, but also I'm sure other people, if they come and watch this video, would welcome some recommendations too. We're going to get through this together. Stay safe, everyone, and take good care.